Ever notice how we just kind of take for granted that we hit play and bam, perfect sound?
Right.
Like it's magic or something.
Right.
But today we're doing a deep dive into how digital music actually works. I've got this stack of articles here about CD audio and SACD audio and all the tech stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is fascinating, though, to think about how much the technology has evolved.
Oh, totally.
And it's all in pursuit of, like, capturing the soul of music, you know?
Absolutely. But I got to be honest, when these articles start talking about bits and sampling rates, I kind of need a translator.
Chuckles. Well, it all starts with this thing called PCM,
Okay.
or pulse code modulation.
Yeah.
And essentially, you can think of it like taking a rapid-fire series of photos.
Yep.
Each photo is basically a snapshot of the sound wave at that particular moment in time.
So instead of hearing a smooth wave, it's more like digital connect the dots.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And just like with a photograph, the more dots you have, the clearer the picture, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's where sampling rate comes in. It's all about how many of these sonic snapshots you're taking every second.
Sampling rate.
Yeah.
I always see that number, but I never really understood what it meant.
Yeah, it's measured in kilohertz or kilohertz.
Okay.
And so a higher kilohertz means you're getting more detail. It's like going from a blurry photo to a super sharp one.
Okay, that makes sense. So where does CD audio fit into all of this?
So CD audio uses PCM,
Okay.
and it has a sampling rate of 44.1 kilohertz, which back in the day when it came out was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But to understand why that number is significant, we need to talk about the Nyquist principle.
Nyquist. It sounds kind of like a Bond villain, but for sound.
Yeah, laughs all. Yeah, well, he's a pretty important figure in the world of digital audio.
All right.
Basically, the Nyquist principle states that in order to accurately capture a sound, you need to sample it at least twice as fast as its highest frequency.
So like if a sound has frequencies up to 20 kilohertz, you need to sample it at 40 kilohertz or higher.
Exactly. Otherwise, you get something called aliasing,
Okay.
which is basically a distortion of the sound. Think of it like trying to draw a perfect circle, but you're only allowed to use 4 dots. It's just not going to look right.
Right.
It's kind of like that with sound.
Okay, so CD audio with its 44.1 kilohertz can handle frequencies up to around 22 kilohertz.
Got it. But I feel like there's always a catch, right?
Well, yeah. You see, even though CD audio's range technically covers what we can hear as humans,
Right.
perfectly recreating that original sound from those samples, it's complicated.
There's a lot of math involved and filtering, and sometimes details get lost in translation.
So CD audio was a game changer, but there's room for improvement.
For sure.
And that brings us to SACD audio, right?
You got it. And this is where things get really, really interesting.
Okay.
Because SACD uses something called DSD, or direct stream digital. And instead of taking snapshots, imagine we're taking a high-speed film of the sound wave. It's a continuous stream of information.
So DSD is like going from still photography to high-definition video.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that's a game changer for sure.
And it uses a much, much higher sampling rate. We're talking 2.8224 millihertz compared to CD audio's 44.1 kilohertz, so it's like 64 times faster.
Whoa, that's a lot of data. Wouldn't that make the files absolutely gigantic?
That's the clever part. DSD uses something called single-bit samples, which are absolutely tiny compared to the multi-bit samples that PCM uses.
Okay.
So even though the data stream is a lot denser, the overall file sizes are still manageable, especially with today's storage technology.
Okay, so we've got this super high-speed, continuous stream of audio data. What does that actually mean for our ears? Like, what's the difference when we hit play?
In theory,
Yeah.
a much richer and more accurate listening experience. Think of it like upgrading from a standard TV to a 4K Ultra HD TV, but for your ears.
So we're talking night and day difference here.
We are.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay.
I am sold. So with SACD, are we talking like wider frequency response, more detail, especially in those higher ranges?
Think of it this way. Imagine you're listening to your favorite symphony orchestra, but on SACD, you'll hear the full power and richness of the music. From the quietest violin to the crashing cymbals without any loss of detail. It's like being transported right to the concert hall.
Wow.
Or imagine like the shimmer of a ride cymbal in a jazz recording.
Okay.
With SACD, those subtle nuances, that delicate shimmer, it all comes through with crystal clarity. You're not just hearing the music, you're experiencing it.
Okay, you've convinced me I need to try this SACD magic, but the catch, I need some crazy expensive equipment to hear all this.
You do need a dedicated SACD player, and they can be a bit of an investment.
Okay.
They require more sophisticated hardware to process that high-resolution data stream.
Makes sense.
But like with most technology, what's pricey today often becomes more affordable over time.
right? Like flat-screen TVs or
Yeah.
smartphones. I mean, those used to be like luxuries.
Exactly. And there's another factor at play here. Remember how we talked about CDs using 16-bit PCM?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of studios today are actually recording and mastering music at even higher resolutions, like 24 bits.
So they're capturing sound quality that's even better than what a standard CD can handle.
Exactly. They have to downsample it to fit the CD format.
Wow.
But those high-resolution masters, those are perfect for creating incredible SACDs.
Oh, good.
Think of it like having this pristine high-resolution photo. You can print it at different sizes,
Sure. Okay.
but the bigger you go, the more detail you see.
So even if someone's not ready to like splurge on a top-of-a-line SACD player, the potential for that amazing audio is still there, just waiting.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, there's actually a really clever solution, hybrid discs.
Okay, what's that?
So these discs actually have both a standard CD layer and an SACD layer.
Wait, so you can play these on my regular CD player
Yep, you got it.
and get the regular CD experience?
Exactly. But then you pop that same disc into an SACD player, and it'll read the higher resolution SACD layer, boom, superior sound quality.
That is so smart. It's like future-proofing the music itself.
You got it. It means listeners can enjoy music at the highest quality possible no matter what their setup is. It's about accessibility and top-notch audio.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so my mind is officially blown. I had no idea there was so much to discover in the world of digital audio. But let's be real here. For like the average music lover, does all this technical stuff really matter? Should we all be ditching our CD collection and jumping on the SACD bandwagon?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And there's no right or wrong answer. It all comes down to you, the listener.
Yeah.
What do you value in your listening experience?
So it's subjective, like anything else in art.
Exactly. Some people might not be able to tell the difference between a basic MP3 and a high-res audio file at all, and that's totally fine. But for those who crave that extra layer of detail, who want to hear the music as close to the original recording as possible, well, for those listeners, exploring SACD is definitely worth it.
It's like those subtle nuances, the depth, the texture that you might miss otherwise.
It's like the difference between a perfectly good glass of wine and a truly exceptional vintage. It's all about personal preference.
Totally.
Some people are happy with the house wine, and some people want to savor every note of a complex Bordeaux.
I love that analogy. Okay, so for those who are ready to like dive into the world of SICD, where do they even begin?
Well, first you're going to need an SCD-compatible player.
Right.
And as we said, there are dedicated players out there, but you can also find some Blu-ray players that support SACD playback as well.
Oh, okay.
Which is great. It's a nice 2-for-1 if you're also in a high-definition video.
Yeah, might as well enjoy those crystal clear concert visuals along with the audio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's really just about finding music that you love in the SACD format. Check out online retailers or specialty audio stores.
Yeah.
A lot of classic albums have been remastered and released on SCTD.
Ew.
So it's a really amazing way to rediscover your favorites with fresh ears.
Like hearing them again for the first time.
That's a great way to put it. Plus, there are tons of new releases coming out on SACD as well. So this isn't just about reliving the past, it's about experiencing the future of audio.
And that brings up an interesting point. We've covered CD audio and SACD audio, but is this it? Is this the end of the line? Like, what does the future hold for how we listen to music?
Right.
Is there something even better on the horizon? It's like we're standing at the edge of something totally new and unexplored in the world of audio.
And the thing is, in the world of audio tech, things never stay the same for very long.
That's true.
There's already talk about these even higher resolution formats.
Oh, really?
We're talking sampling rates that go into the megahertz range.
Mega.
Hundreds of millions of samples every second. It makes SACD look like nothing.
Okay, my brain is officially broken mega. What would we even hear with that kind of detail? It's like, would we start hearing things in the music that we never even knew were there?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there are audiophiles out there who really believe that these ultra high resolution formats are like the key to the ultimate listening experience. They say it's all about capturing every single detail, every squeak of a guitar string, every breath a musician takes, even every little nuance of the recording space itself.
Wow, so it's like you're not just capturing the music, you're capturing the whole environment around it, too.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's about getting as close as you physically can to the original sound.
That's pretty amazing. On the other hand, though, at a certain point, do our ears even, like, is there a limit to what we can actually hear and appreciate?
Well, that's the other side of the argument, right? Some people say that even though our brains might technically be able to process all those tiny details, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to hear a difference.
Right, like with those super high-resolution photos. You get to a point where you need a microscope to see the extra detail.
Exactly not. It's
Okay.
like, who's going to do that?
Right.
So it really becomes a question of, are we going to reach a point of diminishing returns?
Right.
Or will these future formats unlock some level of emotional depth and realism that we can't even imagine right now?
It's kind of a mind-blowing thought experiment. Like, if we could hear music with that level of detail, would we even listen to it the same way? Would
Yeah.
musicians change how they play?
Exactly. Would they change how they compose?
Yeah, it's
That-
really interesting to think about.
It is. It's
Yeah.
like we're on the edge of uncharted territory.
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dive into digital audio, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this? What should they be thinking about the next time they hit play?
You know, I think the most important thing is just to realize that you've got choices as a listener.
Right.
You're not stuck with just one way of experiencing music.
It's true.
Don't be afraid to go out there and experiment. Try different things. See what sounds best to you.
Yeah, what sounds best to your ears.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong here. It's all about finding what brings you joy.
It's about curating your own personal soundscape.
I love that. And never stop being curious. You know, the world of audio is always changing, so stay informed, ask questions, and never stop exploring the magic of sound.
That is a perfect note to end on. So there you have it, folks, your crash course in the amazing world of digital audio. From the trusty old CD to the mind-blowing possibilities of the future, keep those ears open and keep those playlists rocking. Until next time.